resources in the war against coronavirus. The governor of Ogun State, Prince Dapo Abiodun, commended the Oni for stimulating local economy with the initiative, noting that the current administration in the state has achieved tremendous feat through self-help in the area of creation of isolation and treatment centers, as well as provision of relief materials to poor and vulnerable in the state. Governor's Office correspondent Tundalaniro completes the report.
This motorized modular fumigator, homegrown effort to combat COVID-19. The Oni of Ife, Obaeni Tongusi, who presented the ingenious fabrication to Ogun State, says the motorized modular fumigator is very effective.
That is even locally sourced, that can easily kill coronavirus from the droplet mode. So therefore, we cannot fold our hands. This is our own little way to give back to our leaders in the political scene. They are trying their best. Every day you see them on top of their toes, giving us updates, what is happening, how they are sharing this, how they are opening several isolation centers, how they are running up and down. We should not all sit down too. We should always remember that what can we give back to Nigeria, not what Nigeria will give back to us.
Governor of Ogun State, Prince Dapo Abiodun, applauds the monarch for supporting the state in this difficult time in the history of the world.
Prepared to contain and flatten the curve of the spread of this virus as best as we can. We use that index case as an opportunity to begin to prepare ourselves. We began by setting up our emergency operation procedure, our incident action plan. We prepared our health officials. We set up our isolation and treatment centers. To date, we have about 300 bed capacity in the state. We have acquired PPEs, we've acquired ambulances. I believe that to date, we have about 23 ventilators in Ogun State. 23. 11 of which we acquired ourselves during this period. 2 were donated to us by our father, Baba Deboye of Redeemed Christian Church, and 10 is part of a facility that my predecessor had built, and we just reactivated that. I believe that we must probably be a state that has the second highest number of ventilators in the country. We are the first state to acquire our own molecular laboratory, which is in Olabisi Onabanjo University Teaching Hospital. We have a second laboratory, a mobile laboratory, here in Abeokuta, not far from here, across the road. That laboratory has since been functional since Monday, day before yesterday. That laboratory has the capacity to test up to about 1,000, do about 1,000 tests a day. And the test results, I think we get them within 3 to 4 hours. I think it's one of those very rapid testing laboratories. We have, in line with Mr. President's directive, we've also been locking down. We have had our own modified lockdown because of our peculiarity, our size of 16,000 square kilometers, and the fact that we're now a metropolitan state. And to that extent, we've continued to give our citizens palliatives. We did the first round of palliatives, word by word, we did for 60,000 households.
He notes that the distribution of relief materials to the poor and vulnerable across the state is methodical, effective, and efficient.
However, our promise is that we'll continue to provide for as many people as possible. We decided our next target will be our youths, because they are also vulnerable. They are not elderly, but many of them are poor and vulnerable. So we decided that we are going to identify about 1,000 youths per local government. across the 20 local governments, making 20,000 youths. And we're going to provide palliatives for them. This will be announced in the forthcoming days.
The motorized modular fumigator has a pressurized machine that converts the liquid chemicals into fog, which is highly effective. Tunde Olaniro, Ogtv News.
Meanwhile, the traditional medicine practitioners of Nigeria are already working around the clock to find the cure to the coronavirus pandemic ravaging the world using native intellects. The Oni of Ife, Obaini Tonguwusi, disclosed this in an interview with newsmen in Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital. Our Governor's Office correspondent, Tunde Olaniro, reports that the Oni of Ile-Ife assured that the results of the findings will be made known to the world.
The traditional medicine practitioners in Nigeria, because before this pandemic came out, I have actually announced, even before it came and broke out to the entire world, from what we inherited from our ancestors, it came out very clearly. And the cure, the immune booster, and the solution to a large extent was presented to us. And we did what we were supposed to do. But people probably didn't hear us. I'm very happy that the same thing that we are talking about in Nigeria, another sister country, Madagascar, has taken it upon themselves. And even US government, they've even reached out to them for funding. It's another unfortunate thing that the international countries are reaching out to us on this our solution. Even our local people are not reaching out to us. And we have testimonials of a lot of people that have these ailments that we have used it for, and it has healed them. It's a natural herbal medicine, and it is very effective. So we decided to keep quiet and move to a stage of motorized fumigation and make it very mechanical. Our ancestors started fumigation, started sanitization. We used to call it error. Whenever we have igbono in the olden days, our ancestors would say, error. So what's the difference? So people will say, why are we not sharing palliatives? How many palliatives do you want to share? You can keep sharing palliatives and the thing keeps dropping on your body. You are killing more people. We are so worried. It's a sleepless night for me. What I've just come to present today, it's a very, very huge sleepless night for me because we were fully prepared in a traditional way. What is happening now? It is not that we are not prepared. That's why it didn't actually catch us unawares. So the result will soon come out and we'll announce it to the whole world.
The West Africa Gas Pipeline Company, WAPCO, has donated some medical kits as a way of complementing the effort of Ogun State as part of measures to flatten the curve of COVID-19 in the state. While receiving the gesture, the State Commissioner for Health, Dr. Tomi Koka, appreciated the organization for identifying with the state government at this critical period. Dr. Koka further stressed that the gesture will go a long way in assisting the frontliners towards dealing with the dreaded virus in the state.
The frontline workers are the most vulnerable. From the news, we do know that, and we in Ogun State were very proactive in ensuring that hopefully none of our frontline workers will find themselves in that situation. So with this, you're actually partners in progress in ensuring that we protect our frontline workers, and we'll make judicious use of this.
The organization reflected that the initiative is part of its corporate social responsibility, especially to contain the spread of the coronavirus in the state. The medical kits included were alcohol hand sanitizers, face mask, thermometer, and among others. The Ogun State Ministry of Women Affairs and Social Development has displayed its commitment to societal development by donating food items to 13 non-government organizations who care for vulnerable children in the state. Permanent Secretary in the Ministry, Dr. Oluroti Oladende, said the initiative was meant to improve the living condition of children, especially in the face of the lockdown in the state. The event took place at Stella Obasanjo Children's Home, Ibara, Abeokuta. Ido Fabajo reports.
In making life more bearable for vulnerable children in Ogun State, the Ministry of Women Affairs and Social Development donated items including foodstuffs and other essentials to 13 different non-governmental organizations who deal with vulnerable children in the state, especially during the COVID-19 lockdown period. Commissioner for Women Affairs in the state, Mrs. Fumilayo Ifuakwe, was represented by the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry, Dr. Mrs. Oluroti Oladende.
We are giving out relief materials to our orphans and vulnerable children in 13 NGOs of Ogun State, the number 650. This is also in addition to what we had done in the past, about 2 weeks ago, in this very venue, when we gave the vulnerable groups in our ministry, the Ministry of Women Affairs and Social Development, to stem the tide of COVID-19 in the state. We want to ensure that despite the stay-at-home, people also get relief materials.
Receiving the items, representatives of the homes were full of appreciation to the state government for the kind gesture.
We are very grateful because we have something to give to our children that are in dire need. So we sincerely appreciate this good gesture.
And we appreciate the governor, the commissioner and the PS Ministry of Women Affairs for remembering and supporting the orphans and vulnerable children in Ogun State.
Always have to be very, very grateful to His Excellency, the Governor of Ogun State, and the Ministry of Women Affairs, led by deeming it fit to also remember this group of people. You know, it's another thing to know they exist. It's another thing to give special attention. And I'm sure this will also go a long way in supporting other support they've received as vulnerable children.
It would be recalled that just 2 weeks ago, the ministry gave palliatives to the different vulnerable groups in the state to reduce the effect of the lockdown on the children. Ido Fabajo, Ogtv News.
Still ahead, Kaduna NLC kicks as state government plans 25% workers' salary deduction. More news after the break. Do join us again.
Coronavirus is real. Stay at home. Maintain social distancing and wash your hands regularly. Let us drive away coronavirus from our land. This message is from the Ogun State Television.
Glad to have you rejoin us. Ogun State government has extended its disinfection exercise to the state police headquarters, Eliwero, and Zone 2 mobile headquarters, Okelewo, Abeokuta. Speaking during the exercise, the State Commissioner for Environment, Honorable Abiodun Abudu Balogun, says the exercise is in continuation of the statewide disinfection program of all public places, which included all police stations and divisional headquarters, as part of effort at flattening the curve of coronavirus in the state.
Perfectly in line with the governor's policy that we should at least disinfect the whole state. All we're trying to do as a government is to be preventive. The governor of Ogun State, Prince Abuabedun, does not want the pandemic to spread in Ogun State, so that is why he has put up these structures in place for us to work.
Also speaking, the Police Public Relations Officer, DSP Abimbola Oyeyemi, appreciated the state government for disinfecting all police formations in the state, adding that the force was thrilled with the exercise, which was in recognition of its frontline role in fighting the spread of COVID-19.
Thank the government of Ogun State for deeming it fit to come and decontaminate the environment of Ogun State Police Command. They have started it from some of our divisions. Now is the turn of the state headquarters. You see, the police are one of the agencies that are in the forefront of the battle against COVID-19, and we thank God that the government deemed it fit that we are to benefit from the fumigating exercise that is going on across the state.
The need to support government efforts in giving necessary assistance to the vulnerable towards alleviating their challenges in the period of lockdown occasioned by COVID-19 pandemic cannot be overemphasized. Provisional Pastor, the Redeemed Christian Church of God, Ogun Province 1, Celebration House at Digbe, Abeokuta, Pastor Abimbola Abiodun stated this during the distribution of the third phase of palliative to the people of the community. Peter Falomo completes the report.
The gathering of senior pastors of the Redeemed Christian Church of God at the provincial headquarters, Celebration House at Digbe, Abeokuta, was in readiness to reach out to the vulnerable in the ongoing lockdown. While addressing the men of God, the provincial pastor, RCCG Ogun Province 1, Pastor Abimbola Abiodun says the prepared food items ranging from rice, beans, gari, noodles and palm oil is part of the community social responsibility of the church as directed by the General Overseer, Pastor Enoch Adejare Adeboye.
We recall that we have done one before, two before, one during Easter, then afterwards we did at least the third phase that we want to do now. But as per the instruction of the General Overseer, said we should cater for the neighborhood as our catchment, and especially our members that are really vulnerable through house fellowship and so on.
Pastor Abiodun enjoins well-meaning Nigerians not to relent in showing brotherly love to the people, irrespective of tribe and religion affiliations.
I want to encourage those that still have things to share, not to hide, but to go all out and share with people around their neighborhood, so that everybody will not pose, challenge to the peace and the security of the entire state and the nation at large.
The senior pastors thereafter received the items labeled for various communities, such as Adigbe, Kwari, Totoro, Ogbe, and others, under the administration of RCCG Ogun Province 1. One of the zonal pastors in the province, Pastor Wale Obimbe, who led in sharing food items, speaks on the essence of the exercise.
We started at the inception of the lockdown, and then during the God fishing period we also did, but this one is coming directly from him with his own resources, so it's laudable and we thank him for that.
Some of the beneficiaries also react to the gesture.
Adúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ bàbá wa Adébóyè pé wọ́n ṣe ohun gidigidi tí wọ́n ṣe tó ń rántí àwa tá wà nílé tí wọ́n jẹ́ kí ebi pa wá. Inú mi dùn nítorí pé mo rí oore ọ̀fẹ́ yìí gbà.
Very glad for what our Father and the Lord did to his glory area, to me as a person.
This community social responsibility to the vulnerable by the church continues. Peter Falomo, Ogtv News.
In its commitment to lend a helping hand to the vulnerable people across Abeokuta, Abeokuta Sports Club has donated food items and other essentials to alleviate challenges faced by residents in the wake of the coronavirus outbreak. The president of the club, Atilade Bolariwa, reiterated that it is pertinent to complement the effort of government and health institutions in the fight against COVID-19 pandemic. Shimlori Amore has the details.
In its efforts to mitigate the impact of the partial lockdown instituted by government to curb the spread of COVID-19 in Ogun State, Abeokuta Sports Club has made donations to vulnerable people in support of ongoing food relief efforts. Going by the history of the club, the president Atilade Bolariwa states that the club is committed to helping the needy in this critical period.
We have this mind to give. I think that is what prompted some of our vice patrons to donate money when we called for assistance. In the interest of the club so that we can reach out to the needy around us.
The Social Publicity Secretary of Abeokuta Sports Club, Honorable Adijat Adeleye Oladapo, says that it is important to come together as a people to fight the scourge of coronavirus.
For any reasonable organization, whether corporates, non-governmental, individuals, who can afford to support the government in the ongoing war against coronavirus, the government alone cannot do it, and that is why we felt there's a need for us to lend our own little support to what is going on.
Baroni of Egbaland Chief Lai Lapode, while receiving the food items on behalf of Walaki and Paramount ruler of Egbaland, says the monarch is concerned about the well-being of his people and has therefore called on organizations to lend a helping hand in providing relief materials.
The Alaki is very happy that Abeokuta Sports Club is one of the close associates that have listened to his clarion call that people in Egbaland, in Ogun State and everywhere should take care of the immediate community.
The beneficiaries appreciate the kind gesture.
They called me that they will be coming, so I quickly called my fellow widows, and it just came in handy.
We really appreciate this gesture at this critical time.
The food items and other essentials were donated to Stella Obasanjo Children's Home, Widows Indeed and Single Mothers Empowerment, Gideon Orphanage and Home of the Aged, Lepers Colony, Juvenile Correctional Home, Stephen Children Home, and Ake Palace, all in Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital. Shemilori Amore, Ogtv News.
The little kindness and support of the well-to-do can achieve much and go a long way in putting smiles on the faces of the vulnerable in this trying time of the pandemic. Agora of Bagura, Oba Sabriu Babajide Bakri, made this known while receiving food items donated by friends of Agora and the children of late Olori Simiat Tinuade Olaloko to mark 1 year remembrance of their mother held at the Agora's Palace, Abeokuta. Matthew Shobi completes the report.
Bagura, Oba Sabriu Bakri, supported by title chiefs in Bagura town, receiving the food items donated by friends of Agora and the children of late Olori Simiat Tinuade Olaloko to mark 1 year remembrance of their mother through her foundation held at Agora's Palace as a form of palliative for the people to cope with the current challenges occasioned by the stay-at-home order. Oba Sabriu Bakri appreciates the children of the late Olori of past Agora of Bagura for celebrating their parents and honoring their memory in a unique way, as the monarch lost friends of Agora for living up to their responsibility by helping to bring succor to the people at this time. Appreciating the two groups on behalf of the people who will benefit from the gesture, Balogun Ojo, Chief Adio Bayewu, describes the donation as a laudable gesture that will further reduce the pains of the people at this time. Leaders of the two groups, while speaking on what informed the decision to make food items available for the people, call on other well-to-do in the town to come forward with whatever they have to assist the people.
Talk of this issue of coronavirus is an issue all over the world today, and we also know that the government cannot do some of this thing alone. We know the efforts of KBSC in trying to uplift the Bagura land, and we felt we need just to identify with him, to support him, and to support the people of Bagura.
This is where we are from. Our late mother is the immediate past queen of Bagura land, and due to what is going on in the society right now, the situation of society, so we decided to give out to people. So that's why we made it like this.
The distribution of the food items to the people of Bagura commenced immediately at the palace. Matthew Shomi, Ogtv News.
That was the Agora of Bagura Obasabri Babajide Bakari. Lafarge Wapco Cement Factory, situated at Iwekoro in Ogun State, has again extended a hand of relief to 12 community development councils under Iwekoro local government area. Mr. Adamu Mohammed, while speaking on behalf of the country chief executive officer of Lafarge Africa PLC, Khalid Hel Dokne, confirmed that over 1,000 readily packed foodstuffs and other basic items are to be presented to chairmen of the various communities in the local government to complement the state government intervention efforts to the valuation. Ife Sholuado's report is presented in this package.
In a bid to reducing the hardship being experienced by the people during the COVID-19 lockdown period, Lafarge Wapco Cement, as part of the corporate social responsibilities towards its host community, has distributed food items and other basic relief materials to representatives of the 12 community development associations in the Iwekoro local government area. Preceding this humanitarian intervention exercise was the donation of 2 ambulance vehicles and personal protective equipment (PPE) to Ogun State government. According to the acting plant manager of Lafarge Wapco factory site, Adamu Mohammed, this gesture is to complement the state government's effort at containing to the barest minimum the spread of coronavirus by directly meeting the needs of the people.
Iwekoro is our home, our host community, very, very important to us, and our CSR projects, you can name them, building of health centers, schools, at community halls, supporting the farmers, giving scholarship to students. So a lot of numerous activities, and this is done on annual basis.
In their separate responses, Commissioner for Community Development and Cooperatives, Honorable Ganiu Amzat, and Caretaker Chairman of Iwekoro Local Government Area, Mr. Muiwa Babayemi, appreciate the commendable initiative of the company towards the state with an admonition to the public to stay safe.
And that is why I want to use this opportunity to thank companies like Lafarge for doing what we are doing today. May God Almighty Allah in His infinite mercy continue to be with you. May He continue to guide you so that your company will continue to grow from strength to strength.
Though COVID-19 is not what anybody have planned for, we just found it and we have to, find a way to treat it. So we thank Lafarge for supporting, for giving us a massive support in dealing with COVID-19 of this time.
Speaking on behalf of the recipients, Chairman of Iwekoro Community Development Council, Chief Dotun Oderinde, says the palliative will serve its purpose of helping Iwekoro residents by adhering strictly to the government's stay-at-home directive.
And now complementing what they have done with this palliative measure, we are very grateful to them. And if we can have 2-3 types of this company within our society, well, they will be better off. We thank them and we pray that this company will go from strength to strength.
Acting plant manager Adamu Mohammed, however, stated that Lafarge company will continue to monitor the turn of events as plans are underway to ensure that vulnerable households are supplied with basic needs till the fight against the pandemic is won.
The Minister of Health, Dr. Osage Hanere, on Wednesday reviewed that 825 tests yielded the 195 positive results announced by the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, on Tuesday night. The minister disclosed this during the daily briefing by the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 in Abuja. You would recall that the Nigeria Center for Disease Control on Tuesday announced that the country recorded 195 new cases of the novel coronavirus, bringing the total to 1,532. The 195 cases reported is the highest in Nigeria as ever recorded since the outbreak of the virus in the country. Lagos State Health Commissioner Professor Akin Abayomi says the coronavirus infection affects the kidney and the blood. The commissioner warned that obese, diabetic and hypertensive persons should be very careful as their condition poses a likely risk of being infected with the lethal virus. There are new discoveries about the COVID-19 saying it is not a straightforward respiratory problem. We have found out that it impacts the blood and the kidney. He said the common denominator are diabetics, hypertension, and underlying immunological problems. Obesity is also a possible risk factor. The Kaduna State chapter of the Nigerian Labour Congress has rejected the 25% salary cut of senior civil servants in the state by the state government to fight the COVID-19 pandemic. The Labour Union asked the state government to return the deduction or face the wrath of the union. The state government had announced that it would deduct 25% from salaries of civil servants receiving about 67,000 naira to provide palliatives for the vulnerable citizens affected by COVID-19 lockdown. However, the state NLC chairman Ayuba Sulaiman, while addressing a press conference in Kaduna on Wednesday, urged the government to stop the 25% deduction forthwith. Sulaiman said the deduction should be done with workers' consent, saying anything other than that was unacceptable. According to him, Labour in Kaduna State is not against the provision of palliatives to the poor to cushion the COVID-19 lockdown from the salaries of civil servants in Kaduna State, but wish the state that it ought to be carried along and such deduction or contributions should be made voluntary, not compulsory. Governor David Umahi of Ebonyi has directed civil servants on salary grade level 1 to 10 in the state to resume work on May the 1st. The resumption notice was contained in a statement signed by the State Head of Service, Dr. Chamberlain Onwele, and made available to newsmen in Abakaliki on Wednesday. The affected category of workers had been on a compulsory break as part of the state government's precautionary measure against the COVID-19 pandemic. The civil servants are reminded to apply all COVID-19 precautionary measures as directed by the government and stipulated guidelines by the National Center for Disease Control (NCDC). On April the 28th lifted the ban on motorcycle operation and dusk-to-dawn curfew across the state. The International Labour Organization, ILO, has warned that without adequate protection of returning workers during the lockdown, its countries may face the risk of COVID-19 resurgence. The UN agency in a statement said that as the pressure mounts on countries to ease their lockdown restrictions, governments should take action to prevent and control COVID-19 in the workplace, with the active involvement and dialogue with employers and workers. The Labour body said all employers need to carry out risk assessment and enable their workplace meet strict occupational safety and health criteria beforehand to minimize the risk of workers' exposure to COVID-19. Without such control, countries face the very real risk of resurgence of the virus. Putting in place the necessary measures will minimize the risk of a second wave of continued contractions of the workplace. The ILO Director General Guy Reynolds said the safety and health of entire workforce is paramount today, and in the face of an infectious disease outbreak, protecting the workers now clearly dictates how safe the communities are and how resilient the business will be as the pandemic evolves. He added that it is only by implementing occupational safety and health measures that we can protect the lives of workers, their families, and the larger community. According to the UN agency, risk control measures should be specifically adopted to the needs of workers at the front line of the pandemic. This includes health workers, nurses, doctors, and emergency workers, as well as those in food, retail, and cleaning services. The ILO also highlighted the needs of the most vulnerable workers and businesses, in particular those in informal economy, migrants, and domestic workers. Measures recommended by ILO to protect workers include, among others, education and training of safe and healthy work practice, free provision of PPE as needed, access to public health services, and livelihood alternatives. The United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund and World Food Programme have raised concern over feeding and future of 370 million children due to school closure caused by the coronavirus pandemic. This was contained in a joint statement signed by the two organizations after a virtual a virtual regional meeting where they urged national government to prevent devastating nutrition and health consequences for the 370 million children missing out on school meals amid the school closures. In a statement, according to the Executive Director, World Food Programme, David Basley, millions of children around the world, the meal they get in a day, without it, their health is endangered. Which action should be taken now to prevent looming hunger catastrophe? Expressing concern about the plight of children, Executive Director, UNICEF, said upscaling life-saving services for most vulnerable children is imperative. 8 power plants remain idle as generation tumbles. This and more on the business segment of the news. Do join me again. Welcome to the business segment of the news. Nigeria will shell plans to borrow 850 billion naira from international markets and instead tap domestic market to finance its 2020 budget. Nigeria relies on crude oil sales for around 90% of foreign exchange earnings, and they make up the bulk of government revenue. In total, the government had planned to borrow $3.3 billion from international markets this year to finance its 2020 budget and to refinance the $500 million Euro bond due in January. The Senate had previously approved 744.9 billion naira in domestic borrowing for 2020 and another 850 billion naira from offshore resources. The federal government has disbursed the sum of $120.6 million to 24 states of the Federation through performance-based grant under the World Bank-assisted State Fiscal Transparency, Accountability and Sustainability Program for results. The Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Mrs. Zainab Ahmed, disclosed this in a statement issued in Abuja. The project is wholly financed by a loan of $750 million from the International Development Association, a member of the World Bank Group. Mrs. Ahmed said the eligible states were selected on the basis of the results achieved in 2018 on the performance assessment. The Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, has resumed the provision of foreign exchange to banks to enable parents to pay for school fees and to allow small and medium enterprises to make essential imports. This was announced in a statement by the CBN Director of Corporate Communications, Mr. Isaac Okarafo, on Wednesday. He said in view of the gradual easing of the COVID-19 lockdown both globally and nationally, the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, has resumed provision of foreign exchange to all commercial banks for onward sales to parents wishing to pay school fees and SMEs wishing to make essential imports needed to revamp economic activities across the country. Based on the decision, the central bank will provide over $100 million to banks. The number of idle power plants in the country rose by 2 to 8, worsening the blackouts being experienced by many consumers. Total power generation fell to 2,983 megawatts as of 6 in the morning on Tuesday from 3,336.5 megawatts on Monday. The nation's 27 plants generated 4,191 megawatts as of 6 in the morning on Saturday, but their total output plunged to 1,843 megawatts on Sunday. This is according to data obtained from the Nigerian Electricity System Operator. Egben, the nation's biggest power plant located in Lagos, saw its output fall to 396 megawatts as of 6 in the morning on Tuesday from 471 megawatts on Monday. It produced 645 megawatts on Saturday. The Republic of Germany said it has granted Nigeria debt relief amounting to 8.9 billion naira on account of the coronavirus pandemic. Also, the German government said it has successfully campaigned in the G20 group of countries and the Paris Club group of creditor countries in favor of a debt moratorium for countries heavily affected by the economic impact of COVID-19. On April 27th, Germany pledged 300 million euros to the Global Humanitarian Response Plan launched by the United Nations to fight COVID-19. Furthermore, Germany said it has also pledged a total of 12 million euros in additional support to West Africa Health Organization, which is the regional health institution of ECOWAS. The Executive Board of the International Monetary Fund has approved $3.4 billion in emergency financial assistance to the federal government in addressing the severe economic impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. The financial assistance approved under the Rapid Financing Instrument is also to enable Nigeria address the sharp flow in oil prices. The federal government had requested an emergency financial assistance of $3.4 billion under the RFI to meet urgent balance of payments need stemming from the outbreak of the coronavirus pandemic. The financial support is expected to limit the decline in international reserves and provide funds for targeted and temporary spend, increasing amid at mitigating the impact of the pandemic. Trading on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange has remained a bullish trend following gains recorded majorly by blue chip stocks. The major market performance measures the NCE All Share Index and market capitalization rose by 0.49% as market sentiment extended its gaining streak following investors' sustained optimism on undervalued stocks. Markets breadth closed positive as the number of gainers at the close of trading session was 18, while decline closed at 10. Consequently, the all-share index gained 148.07 basis points or 0.49% to close at 22.727.87 as against 22.616.28 recorded the previous day, while the market capitalization of equities appreciated by 58 billion naira of 49% to close at 11.844 trillion naira from 11.786 trillion naira as market sentiment remained on the green zone. On the international scene, British Prime Minister announces new baby. Details when I return on the foreign scene. On the world today, Spain announced a 4-phase plan to lift its coronavirus lockdown and return to normal life by the end of June as Prime Minister Boris Johnson welcomes birth of a son. Details are in this package.
Spain has announced a 4-phase plan to lift stringent coronavirus lockdown and return